Welcome to the Bulldog Blitz, everybody. I'm Kyle Beery. The men's and women's soccer teams are hitting the heart of Big East Conference play this weekend.
And I'm Austin Monteith. We'll take a look at the men in the trenches for the Butler football team and much more later in today's segment.
But first, we'll look at the men's soccer team. Still undefeated at home and ranked 21st in the country, Butler travels east this week for a pair of Big East Conference road matches. The red-hot Bulldogs will square off against Seton Hall Friday before taking on 11th-ranked Georgetown. Senior goalkeeper John Dawson says the team just needs to stay focused on playing their game.
We just got to stick to our game plan. We got to make sure we limit our mistakes. We got to make sure we make them make mistakes. And most importantly, we just play our game. You know, if we keep the gaps tight, we don't stay complacent. We don't get complacent. We'll be able to keep the ball out of the back of our net and put it into their net.
Last week, the Dogs won their first two Big East Conference games, including a shutout against DePaul.
The Butler women's soccer team secured its first victory in the Big East Conference on Sunday with a 2-1 victory over St. John's. Co-head coach Rob Allman says a tough loss gave them confidence.
I think really there was a mentality. I think the win had been coming. We played really well. Coming off the second half of the Georgetown game previous, where we outplayed one of the top 10 teams in the country. We were actually strangely confident, even though that result didn't go our way. So I think we came out and we matched kind of the physical element that St. John's brought to the game.
The team will play at DePaul on October 17th before returning home to face Xavier on the 20th.
Homecoming is upon Butler University this week as the Bulldogs prepare to face Campbell on Saturday at 1 p.m. in the Butler Bowl. Butler is coming off a 35-15 win over Pioneer Football League foe Stetson. Quarterback Matt Lancaster and running back Trey Heater combined for 292 yards of the Bulldogs' total 373 yards of total offense. Campbell is 1-4, and the Bulldogs beat the Camels 35-14 last year.
Offensive linemen are often overlooked when looking at a football team's success. The big guys up front have helped Butler rush for more than 1,200 yards this season. I talked to the team to see just how much the Big Uglies matter to the Bulldogs. The key to Butler's rushing attack lies with its offensive linemen, though they often go unnoticed.
We get the credit where credit is due from our guys in the locker room. All the skilled players and running backs and quarterbacks, they know that we're working as hard as we can up front, and that when we're creating running lanes and there's no sacks, that we're working hard and doing our jobs, and we get the credit from them, and that's where we need the credit from. So it's okay that the fans and everyone don't see us all the time.
The fact 4 of this year's 5 offensive linemen played on last year's squad leads to a sense of familiarity among the group.
4 of the guys started on last year's championship team and obviously are starting again this year, and that has helped the camaraderie or the chemistry. And I think that's, super important if you're going to have a good offensive line. They all got to be able to work together in unison to get the scheme done right, and it is super important. I think we have great chemistry.
Redshirt sophomore right guard David Tawari says the group's solidarity carries over off the field.
Every week, one night before the games, we get together and eat, and we're always just dogging on each other in the locker room. And sometimes it might even seem like we're the least of friends, but it's really just our way of showing our appreciation for each other.
Senior running back Trey Heater says he always lets his linemen know how grateful he is for their work in the trenches.
Oh yeah, I appreciate them all the time because, like you said, a lot of times they don't get any of the glory. Their names aren't in the papers, so they do all that dirty work, and a lot of times don't get the credit they deserve. So every time we're out here, I try to show them all the love I can and pump them up and let them know that I really appreciate what they're doing for me out there, because I wouldn't be anything without them. So we've got a pretty good relationship between me and the O-line.
Eric Holmes says all the running backs owe to the offensive line is to continue to reach the end zone.
All they owe us is to keep scoring touchdowns and winning games, and using what we're doing as up front. As long as we're blocking hard and they're scoring, it's all good.
You can see the Bulldogs back in action on Saturday here at the Butler Bowl when they take on Campbell in this year's homecoming game. For the Bulldog Blitz, I'm Austin Monteith.
The Butler golf teams were in action earlier this week with the Butler Fall Invitational held at Highland Country Club in Indianapolis. The women's team took 2nd out of 10 teams, while the men took 3rd out of 5. The women's team had 2 top 10 finishers, and the men had 1 in the top 10. Purdue took home the trophy in the women's tournament, while Bradley took home the win on the men's side. The Butler volleyball team will not be playing one of its senior team captains this season. Senior middle blocker Claire Randich will take a medical redshirt this year after tearing her ACL and MCL, going for a kill against IUPUI in early September. JoJo Gentry talks with Randich to see how she views the game differently from the sideline.
At first, it was obviously really heartbreaking and disappointing. This is not the way I pictured my senior volleyball season going, but I've learned a lot, actually. It's a whole new experience being on the side and watching everything that goes on and seeing things that you wouldn't normally see, when you're on the court. It happens so fast, everything happens so fast, but being on the side, you kind of get to take a step back and really look at the game from a different technical perspective, I think.
The volleyball team continued its dominance over the weekend, pushing its record to 16-3. The Bulldogs had wins over Big East opponents Seton Hall, St. John's, and 22nd-ranked Creighton at home. The Bulldogs take a 4-game winning streak to Cincinnati this weekend as they face rival Xavier. The men's and women's cross-country teams have the weekend off as they gear up for the NCAA pre-national meet on October 19th. Last Saturday, they competed in the Notre Dame Invitational. The men's team took 17th out of 27, while the women finished in 22nd out of 26 teams.
The men's tennis team is heading south this weekend for its last invitational of the fall season. I visited practice this week to see how they're preparing and how they're treating the fall season. While it's not the actual regular spring season, the Butler men's tennis team is gearing up this fall. Coming off an invitational at Ball State last weekend, the squad heads to the University of Tennessee on Friday. The Bulldogs will take 4 players to the Ohio Valley Intercollegiate Tennis Association Regional Championships in Knoxville, Tennessee. The frontrunner for the Bulldogs, Pulak Bhattacharya, says all 4 are playing well and they'll be heading to Knoxville with confidence.
I mean, we are all playing really well. We have a lot of matches under our belts, a good number of matches. So there'll be a lot of good teams over there, but we are confident. I just hope everything just falls into place and we just win some matches over there.
Bhattacharya has been battling a knee injury dating back to this summer and did rehab in order to play in the regionals. 2 brothers will be taking on some of the load for the Bulldogs this weekend in the form of Austin and Alex Walden. They have been playing doubles together this fall, and Alex, a freshman, says it's a unique opportunity to get to play with his older brother.
There's really nothing better. It's like I'm playing with my other half, so, I'm looking forward to definitely playing some more with them and never take things for granted. We got 2 years together, so looking forward to it.
His brother says while it's not their main season, this weekend they will be looking for ways to improve their game.
Because this is the fall and this isn't really our team match play, just finding stuff to work on and really just kind of exploiting our weaknesses so we can work in the off season to get those better and be ready by January when the dual match season comes into play.
The Bulldogs will use this weekend as a measuring stick as it could be their last time competing this fall. The Bulldogs begin regional play on Friday in Knoxville, and unless they qualify for the National Indoor Invitational, this could be their last one of the fall before the spring season begins in January. For the Bulldog Blitz, I'm Kyle Beery.
As the basketball season is just weeks away from tipping off, the men's basketball team has landed another recruit from the class of 2014. 6'6" power forward Keelan Martin, a 4-star recruit from Louisville, has verbally committed to the Bulldogs. That's all we've got for this week's show. I'm Austin Monteith.
And I'm Kyle Beery. Thanks for joining us on this week's Bulldog Blitz. Have a good weekend, Bulldog fans.
The Butler volleyball team will travel to Xavier Friday night, trying to avenge their loss to the Musketeers earlier in the season and improve their conference record. Senior Morgan Peterson earned Big East Player of the Week honors this week. She helped the Dogs sweep all 3 of their matches last weekend and led the team in assists. The 21st-ranked Butler men's soccer team will travel to Seton Hall on Saturday in the second game of a 3-game Big East road trip that also includes trips to Marquette and Georgetown. Homecoming is this weekend at Butler. The football team will try to fuel the festivities by going for their 3rd consecutive win as they host Campbell at the Bowl on Saturday. The homecoming parade starts at noon. Kickoff is at 1 p.m. The Butler women's soccer team will host Providence at the Bowl Saturday night at 7 p.m. The Dogs pulled off an overtime win over St. John's last week. The team travels to DePaul next Thursday. The Butler men's golf team will wrap up their fall season this week as they compete in the Dayton Fall Invitational on Monday and Tuesday. That's it for this week's Bulldog Blitz scoreboard. I'm Matthew Van Tryon. Go Dogs.
Hi Bulldog fans, I'm Millie Sauber and I'm your host for the interview segment of the Bulldog Blitz. Butler athletes give it all they've got in their games, matches, or meets, but what about the classroom? Today we are talking with the woman who helps put the student in the term student athlete. My guest is Butler's coordinator of academic support in the athletic department, Sonia Hopkins. Hi Sonia, how you doing today?
I'm wonderful, and you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for coming and talking to me today.
No problem. This is a worthwhile topic.
Oh, thank you so much. We love to have outgoing and fun people here like you. So, to get things started, how about you tell all of our Bulldogs at home what it is that you help the student athletes do here at Butler?
Well, first of all, it's our goal to make sure that, every student athlete has an exceptional experience, and I think that obviously is a two-edged sword. The classroom is obviously the most important reason why they would even be on this campus. And then the choice that they have made to be athletes is another privilege that they have as well. So my role in athletics is to make sure that their educational experience is the best that it can be. If any of them need tutoring or counseling with regards to any of their classes, that's what I'm here for. And after that, I wear a few other hats in the department, but for the most part, a lot of my time is spent talking about time management and making sure that they are comfortable with the subjects that they are taking and that they have any help with regards to tutoring if they need it.
Now, prior to working at Butler, you were the head women's volleyball coach at SIU. How do you think that helps you do your job here?
There's no question that with regards to what all student athletes have to do and the amount of time that being an athlete also takes out of their day. I bring to the table just the perspective that I've been where you are. I've also coached where your coaches are. And so when those things kind of conflict, I can bring a perspective on how to balance it all, how it has worked for not just myself having been an athlete, but has worked for the athletes that I also coached. So I can just bring that perspective that's real. I'm not sitting in a chair where I'm talking about coaching and that I've never been there, or I'm talking about being an athlete and I've never been there either. I just bring that perspective that's very real. I bring a very honest perspective. But I also want to bring a comforting perspective to them, to be that person that really does understand where they're coming from. And again, if they have issues, I want to be that person that brings peace to their lives if it's at all possible.
Now, you're also an athlete. You played volleyball at SIU. How do you think that being a student athlete then is different from being a student athlete now?
Well, quite honestly, I think it's really revolving around the NCAA rules. There are quite a few more rules that govern the amount of time that they get to spend on the playing fields, the amount of time that they actually get to spend in competition in their off seasons. When I was an athlete, we really played all year round. We played a lot of weekends, even in our off season. But I think that really contributed to how good we were able to be as a team. And I think that now, what's expected of them in the classroom is no different than what was expected of us. But on the playing field, they're actually spending a little less time practicing and playing than we were able to. So, but that's okay, because there is more balance now than there was when I was a student athlete, and I have a lot of respect for that.
What do you think is one of the most difficult challenges for student athletes here at Butler?
I just think that it's personal choices is the biggest challenge. My coach used to preach to us that if you take care of your responsibilities first, you'll have plenty of time for leisure activities. It's when you choose to do the leisure activities before your academic responsibilities that you can get into some trouble. And I think that, we just come from a very lively, very open, honest atmosphere, and either from high school or from other colleges if you've transferred here. And I think that kind of sets us up sometimes to make some of the wrong decisions initially. But once people decide that they're going to be good students first, and that they can still be good, they can have good friends, they can, go and have a good time leisurely after that it makes sense to them, and that their perspective really comes to light, and that they start to then make the right choices. Those that want to be professional athletes sometimes maybe get clouded by the fact that that's their number one goal, but that you are a student athlete first. Those are few and far between here. I think Butler has a great balance with regards to how we treat the student athlete and the perspectives that we paint for them, so that they understand that they are students first and athletes second, and that they can still pursue a professional career with that forethought in mind.
Do you think that Butler's move to the Big East Conference has influenced or changed your job or the athletes in any way?
I really don't believe so. I think there's a level of excitement that's never been on this campus before. But as far as who we are and what our goals are for our student athletes, nothing's changed. We still want them to be good students in the classroom. We want them to be respectable people on this campus. And we want them to be fierce competitors on the playing fields. And so that hasn't really changed.
What would you say is your favorite part about working with the Butler student athletes here?
My favorite part, outside of watching them walk across the stage in 4 or 5 or 6 years, depending upon what program they are pursuing, is just watching them grow as people. I think that it sometimes can be very overwhelming when you come from the high school setting and you've been very successful as an athlete, you've done really well in the classroom, and then you come to campus and that changes a little bit. You have to work a little harder in the classroom. You're not the big fish in the little pond like you were on the playing field. You're now playing with athletes that are just as competitive as you are. Some of them are better at the sport than you are, and you have some catching up to do. And that in and of itself is a little bit mind-boggling at times. But when it all comes together and they start to feel more comfortable, they start to display their confidence in themselves and in what it is they're pursuing as students, it's just a beautiful thing to see the light turn on and to see them glowing with confidence, and that really that helps me on any given day just understand that what I do is important.
I have to ask, just because I know that you inspire so many people, what in your opinion do you think makes a good Bulldog here?
I would say that it's simply focus. When you come to college, it's a short 4 years or 5 years or 6 years, because we obviously have an awesome pharmacy program here. But it's a short period of time that you have to focus your attention on what it is you say you want to pursue. And I think that a real Bulldog comes in with that understanding. They come in hitting the ground running, and they don't stop pursuing until it's all over. And I see that in our athletes, and again, it makes you, when you get up in the morning and look at yourself in the mirror and wonder what it is that you're doing, and is what you're doing a worthwhile thing. When I think of what our athletes do on a daily basis, I have no problems getting up in the morning and getting myself ready to go and to come in here with a level of enthusiasm that will elevate their level of enthusiasm. I want to help anybody and everybody that I'm blessed with being in contact with to get something positive out of every day. And a Bulldog is tenacious, and I see that in our athletes on a daily basis. And if that stays where it's supposed to be and is focused in the right direction, we'll continue to have as much success as we want.
Do you think that the Butler way plays into a big part of the way our sports teams here function?
Oh, there's no question. You know, there's a mold about what we think and how we feel about what we do and what we want to produce when we're on the playing fields and in the classroom. And I just think that the more we preach that, the more everybody buys into it, that as we continue to bring student athletes into our programs, it'll just be easy to accept that as the way it is and to adopt it in our own personal lives. You know, before I came here, I was a Saluki. So, you know, Salukis are, you know, they're racing dogs, they're hunting dogs. You know, Bulldogs are quite a bit different. There's a different mentality there, and I can adopt the Bulldog way easily. But it's a wonderful mold to be a part of, and I think that again, as it's continued to be preached throughout the years, it's an easy concept to adopt, and it's certainly an easy mold to mold yourself into.
What part do you think that you play in athletes, you know, integrating themselves into the Butler way?
I just think that I try to live it. I don't think that it's necessary for someone in my position to preach that on a daily basis because they're getting that in the classroom and on the playing field. I just do my best to be an example of what that is. And so if anyone ever questioned whether they've had an opportunity to experience through anyone they've come encountered with on this campus, you know, I would love to be the person that they say that they encountered that with. So.
That's great. Sonia, thank you so much for coming. It was so great to talk to you. Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you guys for watching, and Sonia, once again, thanks for tuning in. For the Bulldog Blitz, I'm Millie Sauber.